non-lethal options. There's beanbag rounds and the like. They're not going to go straight into lethal force with an unarmed.
And just so you know, I don't condone any kind of military intervention with this. I was just trying to portray some kind of both sides argument.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have the different sides. But I am curious about it. So say, like, Joe, this was while you were on active duty and this was you being sent down there. Do you feel like for you, I would assume that you and most soldiers probably sort of had a line. And it's like, so Trump's kind of insane. And what if he, as the military commander, ordered you to kill all of the migrants?
Just slaughter
them. I mean,
so the president's never going to be directly telling soldiers what to do. The soldiers that are down there would have been me and my Panera Bread bagel stealers.
Right, but say, I mean, this is Trump though. So
going down the
say
chain of
he
command.
does do it because
so he's going to give a set of criteria to the Secretary of Defense, who's going to give it to the Secretary of the Army, and so it's just going to keep going down, and each one's going to set up their commander's intent, their version of commander's intent. So if X happens, then Y, and it keeps getting more and more strict as it comes down, and when it finally gets to Joe sitting on the border, he knows exactly what the standards are. So he can act in defense of himself or others. That's what it all comes down to.
Do you feel like that's putting a lot of trust into those many layers to make sure that, that Trump, I guess, doesn't do anything too crazy or too rash?
Yes. So there's so many layers for that specific reason. At any point in time, even at the bottom of the totem pole, I don't have to follow a lawful order. If if someone tells me to do something illegal that I can't do, I don't have to do it. They might discipline me for not performing the task, but if it's found that you said, go murder that unarmed civilian, I said, I'm not going to do that. All right, you're going to the brig or wherever you would punish me with. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Right. So you have faith in the general military populace that they would adhere to moral standards or those really, unarguable
So
law,
I don't think this is the
law.
first time that soldiers have been deployed to the border in observation capacity. I know they've done it in the past for training-wise. Again, like I mentioned with the specific thermal devices that you can see at night, training up Border Patrol or local law enforcement agencies. They just don't have the funding that the military does. They don't have the manpower. But these types of events, I can't see a armed conflict happening with a large group of unarmed civilians. I don't even know how that would start.
That's comforting. That's a good start.
Yeah.
But what if they start throwing rocks or something?
Okay, so I've experienced people throwing rocks at me as a U.S. soldier in countries that they maybe didn't want me in their neighborhood anymore. Maybe they're sick of all the fighting. People are going to get frustrated. They're going to throw rocks. They're going to do what they're going to do. At the end of the day, it's up to each individuals to know what the difference and are these people meeting the commander's intent of escalation of force. And no one throwing a rock at me would warrant me shouldering a rifle or firing shots. It's just that's not okay.
I hope that people feel the way that you do.
I'm sure I'm in the majority, the vast majority. But again, you can't account for every human being.
No, people do crazy shit all the time.
Exactly, and unfortunately, the military's not immune to the crazy shit doctrine.
Can I ask about your feelings about, speaking of that, gun control in general? Are you a big Second Amendment guy or?
Shout out Garrett.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
our torts classmate is a big gun firearms enthusiast.
From what I've seen, it's ironically some of the biggest gun sort of nut guys that I know who actually have the most training, who actually know what they're doing, are often for more stricter gun control because they know the community and they say, yeah, I know a lot of people who are really into guns who really aren't safe in the way that,
Exactly. So again, it comes down to training for individuals. I'm all for if you are a trained professional and you know how to use a weapon, then by all means you should have it. But again, I don't have a plethora of guns myself. I never shot a rifle until I joined the Army. That was my first experience. I shot shotguns with my dad bird hunting, but I'd never shot a rifle or a pistol before. And I mean, it's not that big of an issue to me because I don't collect guns or keep them or carry them with me anywhere. So,
Right. And I think that's where, there's a difference between, wanting to have a gun to protect your family and being an enthusiast. Like, if you want to be an enthusiast, by all means, be an enthusiast. But, like,
the military is full of some gun
Enthusiasts?
enthusiasts.
oh, exactly. I mean, like, and I've owned a few firearms myself. But I mean, like, when it comes down to it, when it comes to self-defense, what is the likelihood of you using that for self-defense versus any other situation? It's
very,
very, very
low.
slim. And
Unless you're in Afghanistan,
Unless-
then maybe,
It was very slim in Afghanistan. I didn't use my weapon in self-defense in a war zone.
there you go.
As an example.
Yeah, I
Again,
think you could just leave it at that.
we still had them, and it was a deterrent. But and most times we wouldn't take our rifles out to these ministries. They didn't want us looking threatening, so we just keep a pistol underneath our jacket or our shirt, conceal it. I did take a conceal and carry course when I came home from Afghanistan, just because everywhere I went, I had a Glock with me, and I just kind of thought I would need it when I was home. And I can say that I'm a little concerned with who they're giving conceal and carry permits to.
Oh yeah, I've taken one.
They're handing those things out.
I'm just
kind of
saying,
like candy.
when I first got my guns and stuff, I actually did it as an experiment to see how easy it was because I wanted to see how it was. I mean, so it was a super easy process for me. I had no prior gun experience before. I never went hunting or anything. I signed up for a 3-hour class for $60 and this stupid little course with 5 other people in it and a guy who was severely just like, he was sitting on a lawn chair in a classroom drinking a Coors Light.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And he was discussing like, this is how you use a gun.
I'll vote for that guy.
Right. And he was just like, he hardly touched on like the legalities of like, well, these are the situations in which you would merit pulling a gun out.
Wait. Was he actually drinking a beer in the class?
Yes,
He was?
he was.
My class was in a fleet farm. There's no alcohol. I want to go to your class.
And it was 3 hours, $60, and then the final training was I had to shoot a target that was from me to Mitch away, and from anyone who doesn't know, that's like 5 feet away. And I just had to hit
it. It was incredibly close.
super close. And
Now
if
you
I
had to
could hit
just
it, if I could hit it like 5 times, like good enough. So once you get your certificate, you go to the police station and then you fill out some paperwork and you're like, hey, I like to get a conceal and carry. And then I fill out the paperwork. I give it to some guy at the police officer who's half asleep. And he's like, okay, cool. In like 2 months, you're going to get a card in the mail and then you're good to go. And then I bought a firearm for $700 with 1,000 rounds. I was like, damn, this is super easy.
Oh, Jesus.
And
Does that make you nervous that Anthony can carry that?
Oh, you guys want to hear more internet troll story? Recently was recommended to me online. Guy I was a troll that I was trolling. There was a whole thing about how it's unsafe for like women to be joggers, which I have experienced because I am a female jogger. And there was this guy who, of course, was right on the thread. It was like an NPR story. He was like up there, like, this is why we need conceal and carry. Like, they should all be carrying guns. Like, this wouldn't happen. And I was like, are you, like, come on, dude. I have, like, a phone and keys. Like, I can barely carry that stuff. I've got my dog. I can barely, like,
You gotta
handle
carry
all
that
Where am I
firearm in the
supposed to
other
put a
hand.
gun? And he actually recommended a lot of holsters that you can like wear, like harnesses and stuff. And then I was inquiring. Yeah. And then but that was my idea. I was like, well, can I put a gun on my dog? Can I like rig
Harness
up
that gun on your dog.
Can I rig up sort of a thing where she has it above her
Absolutely.
Yeah.
head? And like I can just have like maybe a little clicker that
Like a remote.
like freaking laser beams attached to their freaking heads.
Yeah, and he was understanding, but he said that at least, I mean, this guy, he didn't go that far. He said, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be handing out gun licenses to dogs anytime soon. And, as for gun safety as I am against that because
Well, and
they're more
'Cause
qualified.
dogs should probably have more
They're more
guns.
qualified.
But I gotta say though, and it's kind of scary to think about. I mean, so for all the people who are about, they're pro Second Amendment, like, well, we just need to have more, thorough searches, background searches on mental health and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not a deterrent. You won't be able to control anything like that. Like,
Well, but I mean, what you're saying is also evidence that mental health would not be any like accurate correlation between the people. I mean, there are tons of people with mental health issues who would not be
are
violent, and there
undiagnosed.
are tons of people who wouldn't have mental health issues on the books who would be violent.
Right, and furthermore, I mean, you're breaking federal law. I mean, like that's HIPAA violations because
Yeah.
all of your mental health. I mean, that's like the most sacred HIPAA violation or HIPAA documents that you can have. I mean, you can't just have your local Dick's Sporting Goods looking at your mental health records to see if you're capable or not to buy a shotgun. Yeah, I just don't see that as a viable solution to filtering out who gets these firearms.
So let's move on to our. We're gonna cold call on Joe here. We have our cup of shame right in front of you. Shame. And so I have 3 questions here. If you get any of them wrong, you do have to delve into our cup of shame. If you get it right, you can pass it off to one of us, but not me.
Do I have to keep going if I get them all wrong? Is it just never ending?
Yes.
Yeah.
No one's ever suggested that before, but yes.
Yeah.
You? Oh, all right. Well, I'm going to break the record here.
So, what are the 4 elements of negligence? Joe, we just had.
I know I just did negligence. Duty, breach. I can't remember them. I'm blanking.
Fire, water, heart, Captain Planet.
The next one has 2
Fire,
parts to
water,
it. It's a
heart.
2-prong one.
I got nothing.
So it's duty, breach of duty, causation, and damages.
Oh, yeah.
And causations is broken down into direct and proximate. You gotta have them.
Where's my cup?
All right, you ready?
Shame,
there it
shame,
is.
shame,
Shame.
Have you ever lied to impress someone, and what was the lie?
Ooh.
Yeah, all the time.
Lie to Mitch so he can get on the show.
Yeah,
He's
right.
like, yeah, I've been to Afghanistan. And
All
I was in
this
the
stuff.
military.
I was actually the guy who taught his firearm class. It was me. So this girl I was dating when I got out of the military and
Oh,
started
girl.
doing the
Yeah.
contract work, she was asking me what it was that I did, and this is a lie, but I was clearly joking about it. But I asked her if she'd ever seen the movie Apollo 13. Like, yeah, I've seen that movie. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, have you seen any of the Born Identity movies? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, now combine those 2, and that's what I'm going to be doing. And she's like, that doesn't even make any sense. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I can't tell you about it. I mean, were you able to talk about your contracting job when you were doing it?
We couldn't like
Not like the big things.
yeah,
obviously.
voice it of like our company, what we were doing and stuff. They like to just keep it as low profile as possible. They didn't like
But you
people
didn't need,
drawing
like-
attention.
right.
Is it Blackwater?
A lot of bad publicity. And they're just trying to avoid it. They've changed their name a couple times since then. So,
Blackwater? Or just the company that you work for in general?
yeah.
Change names. Yeah, they change names a lot.
Yeah, it's like Rule 101 of bad press.
That's why corporations
Get a new name.
exist.
Two.
Second question.
Are you seriously?
So, which famous case in American tort law established the current view on causation and liability for an unforeseeable plaintiff? You just need the first
Yeah.
part of it.
This is a Cardozo opinion
Yeah.
Oh,
with
okay,
a
you go into the
railroad.
court-
Yeah,
With a railroad.
yeah.
I don't know
I'll give
the
you that.
name.
I'll give you that one.
It's on-
Long Island Railroad. Yeah.
Long Island
But
Railroad.
yeah, it goes by.
I'm thinking of the platform and the,
Yeah.
Oh, is that Paul's graph?
Paul's
Yeah.
graph.
Oh, you were
Paul's
so
Yeah.
in love with Paul's
I
graph. You're
love
such
that
a you're
one.
such
I'm
a one
such
L
a-
tour student.
I'm such a Paul's graph guy.
do I get credit for explaining several
Oh,
details about it?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yes,
the
and
Cardozo
you get to make Mitch answer.
Yeah.
Well,
shame
or
question.
anybody
With the
here
Cardozo,
specifically.
citing Cardozo, I mean, that's definitely a Mitch thing.
Yeah,
What?
there you go, Mitch.
Man,
Shame.
She'll never be on
Shame.
again.
Shame, 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 shame.
shame.
Oh. Well, I'm too, maybe I don't want to, maybe this one I can't answer. It says, what is your current law school GPA or class standing?
0.
Sorry. Yeah,
We'll answer it for you.
0.
I guess
Well,
we should
as
ask
I've
Joe,
told
what
you-
is Mitch's current class standing? How do you think he ranks up? How are
do I
his cold
rank
calls?
up?
How nervous is he? Does
I
his
think
voice
he's
shake?
doing pretty good. He's got to be above on the top end of the pack in the
That's
middle.
better than
I'd
me.
say.
I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to answer this one because I never look at any of my grades.
No, he's just going to give us his login info, and we're going to look at his grades.
You can do that.
And then
And
we'll
post
I'll
it
give you that.
and post it
I'll
to
give you
social
that.
media. Keeping up with Mitch.
Mitch grade.
All right, last question.
Last question. This one's a hard one. So I apologize.
Bombed all of them.